Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we have a few D&D horror stories about some of the most petty DMs that I have ever read about. But before we get into that cringe, as is tradition at this point, here are some kitties to help guard against the psychic damage that these stories are sure to inflict. There we go. And now that we're all prepared, let's hop right into some Dungeons & Dragons cringe. D&D Turf War at Our Local Bar by Reddit user Sotor Demotor. I live in Chicago. We have a bar for just about any walk of life here in this big city of Midwestern values. My walk of life mostly incorporates tabletop RPGs, heavy metal, cold lagers, and cheese curds. So when I stumbled across the bar that specializes in all of the above, I instantly fell in love. The space is truly exceptional. They have a large but relatively private game room separated from the bar by a long hallway, brutalist fantasy decor, vintage video games, great music, cheap lagers with a food specialization in donor bowls and poutine. It was paradise. The first time I stumbled across this place, I noticed the game room had a handcrafted beholder beer bong hanging from the ceiling. I asked the bartender if they have D&D games I could attend, as a player or as a DM. They directed me to a Facebook group where they organize their events. This group has been meeting every Wednesday at 7:30. I dusted off the old Facebook app and started drafting a post. Hey, new to this community. I'm an experienced DM, and I'm looking to run a D&D 5e one-shot 3 weeks from next Wednesday at the bar. The one-shot is designed to incorporate a tarot card reading, and the party goes on a journey that fulfills the fortunes of the cards. Let me know if you're interested. The post got a lot of likes and comments from interested players, but after a few hours, I received a comment from the admin. Let's call him Gob. Sorry to burst your bubble, but this group is for already organized games, hosted by myself and other DMs. We have the back room reserved and usually fill up all available seats we can without too much noise pollution or overcrowding. We have been staying away from 5e after running it at the bar for 4-ish years and have moved on to DCC, Dungeon Crawl Classics. DCC, in my opinion, is far more suited for a bar game and much easier to learn for newcomers, as well as much less toxic in community, company, and also the inability to power game is a big plus from the system. AKA, get that 5e shit out of here please. Lol. I'm kidding, but for reals, no thanks. Now, if you would like to talk to the bar and schedule another day, or maybe play in the front separate, you're more than welcome. Alternatively, you could just join us on a Wednesday and check out what we do before starting a whole new thing. The post was locked and comments were turned off after that. A little off-putting, condescending, and judgmental, but whatever, it was just a Facebook post. A few days go by and I decide to join them the following Wednesday. When I get to the table, the vibe is cold. Gob doesn't really engage me when I try to make some pre-game small talk. I tried asking questions about DCC, a system I was unfamiliar with, and they just tossed a book at me and said, "Look it up." I spent the rest of the pre-game reading about my class, looking up basic rules, and trying to figure out the best way to stay alive in such a meat grinder system. Everything but my class got randomly generated. The background I got was farmer, so I had a pet pig with me. I named her Tulip and made my character very much love this pig like a child. The DM then started calling me pig fucker, and the party started chiming in. Whatever, although mean-spirited, it's still pretty funny. I just rolled with it into my character's interactions. This dwarf named Ingot being all too familiar with other dwarves, not understanding the innocent bond he has with his sweet Tulip. They were just like his dad, forcing him to be a minor, not understanding his passion for raising these wonderful creatures. As the game went on, Tulip was used to good effect, scouting ahead, creating distractions, and generally being an asset to the party. We got to a point where we saw a cliff face, with nothing but a rope attached to a broken lift. Ingot, my dwarf, volunteered to go scout ahead by rappelling down the rope. Before he left, he said, "If anything happens to me down there, be sure you take care of Tulip for me." And they responded with apathy about the pig. As Ingot starts descending, he sees a pink blur careening towards him. It was Tulip. He dropped his longsword to free up an arm to attempt to catch the pig. The roll failed, and Tulip falls to her death. The party had tossed the pig off the bridge for no reason other than to be dicks. Now, I don't like to get upset about things that happen in an imaginary world, but I couldn't help but feel like this was an attack on me as a player. It was pointless and very mean. Narratively, it has left me no choice but to retaliate. This is not something Ingot would just ignore and shrug off. Ingot starts climbing back up with an intensity behind his eyes that burns hotter than his compassion for his blessed Tulip. Ingot was a level 1, and most of the party was level 3+, and the culprit behind the slaughter was a wizard. I did not know much about the game, but what I did know is that at level 1, I can choose a shove ability. On a successful roll, it moves any creature 10 foot in a chosen direction, and the wizard just so happened to be standing on a cliff face. The sounds of the pig's corpse slamming against the coal-hard floor had woken up what seemed to be a massive insect. Ingot did not care. He was tunnel-visioned. He needs to avenge his pig. Ingot reaches the top of the cliff face with the insect hot on his tail. He begins to shove the wizard towards the cliff, and it was a success. But still, 5 feet to go, the wizard cast darkness. Now, I wish I could tell you that this ends in Ingot trifling with a level 4 wizard to avenge his poor Tulip, but the DM wouldn't let this work. We fought off the insect, and then after the battle, the wizard cast a calming spell on me, since if I kept shoving him, we would TPK, and some people have characters that they have been working on for months. So I decided to go out of my character and back off, at least until we killed this big bug. After we killed the bug, the calm spell is used again. The only way forward was down that cliffside. I was pretty checked out at this point, so both Ingot and I were pretty absent from the following roleplay. The wizard decides to make his way down the rope. Another player seemed to empathize with me. It was pretty apparent that all of my fun got taken away. She found an opportunity to kill the wizard and took it. She cut the rope that the wizard was descending down. The session kind of ended soon after that, since the player was pretty upset. I realized that this group was not for me, so I decided to take Gob's advice and start my own D&D night for Tuesdays. I asked Gob if I could post on his Facebook page in a private message, and he responded, "DM, please make another group. I reserved that group for Wednesday events. Sorry." Me, damn, very unchill. I guess I'll do that then. DM, unnecessary, dude. I spun up some ads, started a Discord server, and began promoting the games and the server on various Facebook groups for local D&D meetups, as well as neighborhood pages. I got a lot of interest and started getting more players. Even some people who had tried the Wednesday night group and had bad experiences with them had showed up. Our first night, we had a turnout of about 10, and it was a big success. After a few weeks of running my games, I reached out to Gob and asked him if he wanted to join my server, so he could have a space to promote his games to a new audience. After all, a rising tide floats all ships. He joined, and I created a space for him to talk about his DCC games. I asked him to come by and play in one of my games, and he declined. We have been growing so much that I needed a second DM to host a second table, and I asked Gob if he would like to lend a hand, but he declined again. I gave the responsibility to our former Wednesday night player. We can call him James. Oddly enough, Gob started showing up and playing in his games. And every once in a while, we did a special night where instead of one-shots, we do a continuing storyline of some 5e adventures in Ravenloft, DM'd by James. In this campaign, I played a war cleric with great weapon fighter. Basically a different kind of pally, with more of a focus on mixing martial, ranged spell attacks, status magic, and of course, powerful healing. His whole shtick was that his church was basically an MLM, and people generally got a laugh out of it. Gob, on the other hand, did not. He constantly criticized me for not playing my character like a cleric, how I should be saving my spell slots for buffs instead of using Guiding Bolt. He continued to ridicule me after the game on my Discord server. I clapped back a few times, but mostly just let it be. I mean, it's all just imaginary shit. At this point, I have been running games at the bar on Tuesdays for about 10 months. Stranger Things Season 4 just came out, and we have seen a massive boon in new players. We went from around 2 tables of 4 players to 2 tables of 7 or 8. It got me thinking, I have enough players now to get some shirts printed up and get them all at cost. As soon as I announce the shirts, Gob announces he will also be printing shirts. I'm just thinking, man, wouldn't it be nice if we could just have one big order instead of being petty? I mean, it would be a lot cheaper for everyone if we could order with a larger volume. We could also chip in on a professional illustrator and get something really iconic. I posted a video I made on his Facebook group to show off my portable DM kit I use. It's a nice little black case with encounter cards in it, a nice compartment for dice, minis, and spell radius tiles. I was pretty proud of how it turned out, so I was excited to share it. He quickly deleted my post and said, "Do you use this for your Tuesday night games? This group is for Wednesday. Tisk tisk tisk." He then suspended me from his Facebook group. Then he made his own Discord server and sent everyone the link before leaving my server. Only about 4 of my players joined, including me, but he shortly banned me from his server as well, even though I never made a single post there. I'm not sure what I did to piss this guy off so much, but live and let live. I'm not going to meet his pettiness with more pettiness. I'm just going to do my shit, and I am sure it will continue to be successful. In less than 1 year, I have grown to a level it took him 5 years to achieve. Although, this shit is not a competition. The only win here is to make sure the players have a good time, as well as making sure the bar gets some new customers. It would be really nice if we could just have a cooperative relationship. And honestly, I don't hate the guy. I am sure if he was not trying so hard not to like me, we would probably be friends, as we clearly have a lot in common. It's unfortunate that things are where they are, and I don't see things changing from his perspective. On multiple occasions, I have asked him to grab a beer sometime so we can talk some of these conflicts out, and he has turned me down every time. Also, he's still never been to one of my one-shot tarot games. Holy crap, talk about a petty vindictive child. Just that first interaction with the dude on Facebook spelled out how much of an immature asshat Gob was. And it's no surprise to me that things turned out the way they did just based on that. Though, I gotta be honest, I kinda like stories like these, where someone is just trying to be nice, but one person is immature and just a general dick. Then nice dude gets successful, and the dick just gets more jealous. Luckily, it sounds like OP is taking the high road by just ignoring the childishness, and just continuing to make a great night for players to enjoy themselves. Hopefully Gob grows up at some point, but let's just say that I don't see that happening, ever. I've known people like that in my life, and they tend to not change. Plus, now I kinda want a bar near me to start a D&D night. That just sounds awesome. And it looks like we have time for one more story. But before we get into that, this graph shows that a lot of you aren't yet subscribed. And I can understand that sometimes one of my videos will just pop up in your timeline and you click it, which I really do appreciate. But why not click that subscribe button and the bell? That way you can get notified whenever a new video drops. And it really does help the channel grow. But the main bonus of it is, it makes Nipsey happy.
Yes, please subscribe. I really like this turtle.
But with that said, let's get into the next story. I'm the DM, so I own you. By Reddit user, Alti the Alter account. In the ancient times before COVID, I was part of a D&D group that consisted of friends and acquaintances that I'd made at the community college I attended. We all had an interest in playing D&D, but didn't have anyone who knew the rules in depth and wanted to run a game for us. That all changed when we met Carla. Not her real name, but let's roll with it. Carla had just moved from out of state and was looking to put a game together. Since she had way more experience than any of us, we all jumped at the opportunity to have her run a game for us. We generally tried to meet at least 3 days a week, since most of us were around 20-something with way too much free time on our hands. At first, things were cool. She was very patient with teaching us how to play, was very knowledgeable about the rules, and everyone was having a great time with their first campaign. That all started to change about a month in. Carla had posted a message in the group chat which went along the lines of that we needed to start pitching in a little bit of cash before each session, since she was taking a sizable amount of time where she was missing out on potential opportunities to make money. At the time, we were all behind it. She was taking 3 to 6 hours out of her days to run the games for us, while also attending her classes, so we were more than down to show a little appreciation. It was agreed that we would each pitch in $10, which added up to $50 a session for her. I'd say for a few weeks everything was fine. However, since I was an unemployed art major whose only source of income was taking commissions, it was a bit hard for me to keep up the pace of paying $10 3 times a week, and that was a little much for me since taking commissions wasn't exactly lucrative or consistent at the time in my life. So one session, I just couldn't pay, but I had raided my freezer and pantry and brought a bunch of snacks as a way of making up for it, and even apologized beforehand. But that night, I literally could do nothing when it came to rolling dice. It didn't matter how high I rolled. I couldn't hit anything, and none of my skill checks passed. This was despite some of the other people in our group rolling lower than what I rolled. After that, she reached out to me, asking why I thought I was above paying, and when I explained the situation and said I would get it to her next session, she said something along the lines of, "Well, good. Maybe next time you'll be able to hit something." Which pretty much confirmed that she was making sure my rolls didn't matter. Now, that was a massive red flag, but at the time, I felt like the asshole, like I wasn't coming through for someone that was counting on me. After that, she just started to get more pushy. There was one incident where she ordered a pizza, expected us to cover it, and then didn't share any of it. She would make a list of snacks she wanted at the session, and who was expected to bring them. If anyone didn't bring them or just forgot, coincidentally, none of their roles or actions seemed to matter that session, and we'd get some sort of passive-aggressive post in the chat afterwards. At this point, a lot of people in the group were starting to get fed up, but none of us wanted to be the first one to leave the group, so we mostly just stuck to venting in private. Around this time, Carla started working for a certain MLM makeup company and informed us that before sessions, we could buy something from her selection of products, or pay $10. But we had to get her an appointment with someone we knew who might be interested in buying some of her stuff. Sounds stupid? Yeah, we thought so too. I remember me and one of the other girls in the group buying one overpriced product just to be polite, but everyone else just wanted to give her $10. That led to her freaking out on everyone, her throwing us out of her apartment, and surprisingly not saying anything on the group chat for a few days. When she did return, it was to berate us for her missing her quota for the week, how we weren't doing enough, and that there wouldn't be any more sessions until we helped fix the problem you made. We shockingly didn't want our money and fun to be held hostage by someone who treated us like her own personal wallet because she wanted to chase after a pink Mercedes that she was never going to get. So we all just collectively said fuck it and blocked her at the same time, with some of us deciding to tell her off before doing so. There was a confrontation on campus, which led her to being escorted off campus after spitting in my friend's face. But after that, we moved on. We started running little one-offs and homebrew campaigns before we added a much cooler DM who didn't expect us to pay. While I can understand being a DM is overwhelming, a DM is also playing the game as well as the players. If it was cutting into her ability to make money, then they could have always cut the games down from 3 days a week to 2 times or even once a week. At the end of the day, D&D is supposed to be a hobby, not a job, even though some people do get paid to DM. Even still, it sounded like the players were more than willing to pay what amounted to $30 a week each. And by doing math, that comes out to $150 a week to play D&D as a DM, which is nothing to shake a stick at. Ah, sticks. But it sounded like the DM got a bit greedy when OP just couldn't cut it for one session, and she punished them for it. And then do the same thing to the others when they didn't bring the food that she wanted. Then there is the whole totally not a pyramid scheme that the DM got involved in and tried using her players to peddle her wares. All around, this sounded like a bad situation, and it's good to hear that the players got out of it and are still playing a game that they love. Have you ever experienced a player or a DM that was next level petty over something stupid? If so, and would like this Doge to tell your tale, be sure to comment it below on the d&Ddoge subreddit, or even feel free to DM me on Twitter. As always, I appreciate all of you, and Nipsey appreciates all who subscribed.
Thanks for subscribing. I really like this Lucky.
Until next time.